The report is submitted to the Attorney General pursuant to 28 CFR Chapter 600.8c, which states that, at the conclusion of the special counsel's work, he shall provide the Attorney General a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions the special counsel reached. The Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. Evidence of Russian government operations began to surface in mid-2016. In June, the Democratic National Committee and its cyber response team publicly announced that Russian hackers had compromised its computer network. Releases of hacked materials, hacks that public reporting soon attributed to the Russian government, began that same month. Additional releases followed in July through the organization WikiLeaks, with further releases in October and November. In late July 2016, soon after WikiLeaks' first release of stolen documents, a foreign government contacted the FBI about a May 2016 encounter with Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos had suggested to a representative of that foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That information prompted the FBI on July 31, 2016 to open an investigation into whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign were coordinating with the Russian government in its interference activities. That fall, two federal agencies jointly announced that the Russian government directed recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including U.S. political organizations, and these thefts and disclosures are intended to interfere with the U.S. election process. After the election, in late December 2016, the United States imposed sanctions on Russia for having interfered in the election. By early 2017, several congressional committees were examining Russia's interference in the election. Within the executive branch, these investigatory efforts ultimately led to the May 2017 appointment of Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III. The order appointing the Special Counsel authorized him to investigate the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, including any leaks or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign. As set forth in detail in this report, the Special Counsel's investigation established that 1. Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election principally through two operations. First, a Russian entity carried out a social media campaign that favored presidential candidate Donald J. Trump and disparaged presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Second, a Russian intelligence service conducted computer intrusion operations against entities, employees, and volunteers working on the Clinton campaign and then released stolen documents. 3. The investigation also identified numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. Although the investigation established that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and worked to secure that outcome, and the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Okay. And then it goes in detail on and on and on. Link in the doobly-doo, of course, down below. So here's the thing. Are we really supposed to believe that the Russian government, with full knowledge the Trump campaign having full knowledge, would just choose to voluntarily go against one candidate favoring another, and that the Trump campaign had literally nothing to do with any of this? Are you really who in this planet, in their right mind, would ever seriously think anyone would take all this effort by the FSB and just, say, they're just helping us out, but we're not working with them? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. If the Trump campaign knew willingly that the Russians were committing crimes against the Clinton campaign, that by itself should be considered conspiracy. They knowingly were benefiting from the Russians being directly involved in the election process of the United States, advertising for the Trump campaign. And to say that there was no working together even though we have perfect evidence that there were meetings in Trump Tower between Russian officials and high-ranking members of the Russian investigation, for which numerous people right now are in prison. There are numerous people from the Trump campaign right now in prison regarding the Russian interference in the election. And we're not talking like little, people who were passing pamphlets out. We're talking high-ranking. We're talking about Michael Flynn. We're talking about Papadopoulos and other people very high in the Trump campaign's upper echelons of leadership. They were working with Russia in Trump Tower. Russia was, as the Mueller report is saying, working with Hillary Clinton as they're meeting with Papadopoulos in Trump Tower, and there was no collusion. There is a word for that in political science, and it's called bullshit. It's absolutely not true. It's insulting to the intelligence of every American, and we should riot on the streets. This is a sham, and most of this report is true, except for that last piece. We've been hearing about this for years, and if there really was no collusion, Papadopoulos would be a free man, and Cohen would be a free man, but they're not. And the reason is because they did collude with Russia. This report does everything short of doing that, and if the Russians didn't investigate, why put them in prison? It's obviously a lie. That last sentence of the introduction is an obvious lie, because otherwise no one from the Trump campaign would be in prison today. It is insulting to every American in the United States. We have a right to be angry. We have been stolen from. President Hillary Clinton should be in office right now. She was stolen from us. Donald Trump needs to resign or be impeached, because this is an absolute sham. We have a right to be angry. We have a right to revolt. We have a right to riot. We have a right to be angry, because that last sentence is a lie. And this is only part one. It's just a matter of time, because it's blatantly obvious that there was conspiracy and there was coordination, because otherwise no one from the Trump campaign would be in prison right now. They wouldn't have seriously gone after the numerous Trump campaign officials so heavily if there hadn't been conspiracy. Oh, it's tax fraud. Yeah, right. Go against like half of Congress then. Go against all these bankers who stole trillions of dollars from Americans. If that was really what they're going after, then most bankers at Chase Bank, etc. would be in prison right now. That's not why they were sent to jail. And everybody knows it. And the truth needs to be said. This is insulting. We have a right to be angry. Trump needs to resign.